What's happening, Ward Wrestling here, man? Another awesome show for you. We've got Coach Bryan Kenney. A lot of you in the state of Florida know him from when he was down here on the Gulf Coast, coaching down here in Florida. He since then he went on and coached in Texas. He was the USA Wrestling leader over there, helping build up Team Texas. And he just was blessed with an opportunity to start a college program in Northern Oklahoma. And he took advantage of that. As you can see, Go Mavericks up top. That's him there. And there he is up on the screen. What's up, Bryan? He's got the horns. He's in a high school weight room. So
hey, what's up, everybody? Yeah, it's been a few years since we talked, and all of a sudden, yeah, apologize about the Wi-Fi. Things have happened. We've moved from, I was at Tampa plant in Tampa when I was in Florida, and then we moved back to Texas. I've helped the Team Texas junior duals team the last 6 years. Me and my wife started a gym here in Texas that we're moving to Tonka, Oklahoma, Power Training Center. What else? My wife we started an apparel company and Power Sportswear, and now my wife has also added to that with Empowered Permanent Jewelry. So it's been a little busy on top of our teaching schedules, but yeah, the NOC position kind of went live in January, and we've been going ever since. So today is my last day of teaching high school in Texas, and then we're literally loading the U-Haul tomorrow evening, and we're full Okies after that.
And he really is there. He's not a robot. So if you just hear his voice clearly, but he looks like he's it's him. But it's cool. I know you have the you had started the clothing company. I know you're doing big things there. The power training, the sports. You were big into Team Texas. How did this come about? I mean, you were building there. You had just taken over another high school. You were prepared to build things there, and then next thing you hear, you're taking over a college program. It must have been an opportunity that you couldn't pass up, because I know you love it out there in Texas.
Yes. So kind of backstory on it, right? I was at Plano East for the last 6 years, came back to J.J. Pierce High School. I mean, everything was awesome. I had sent my information into NOC a while back, kind of doing it before I came to Pierce. We hadn't heard anything. Well, now I find out kind of the progress was we had a bunch of amazing alumni, boosters, community support members that pretty much our wrestling booster club before they had wrestling. And they went to the college, laid out a plan. Todd Glasgow, who was a superintendent in Oklahoma, state champion, head wrestling coach, kind of led those efforts. And I came into the easy part. They had already worked with our athletic department, our president, and they really, rolled the red carpet out for me. So I got a call from our athletic director and Alan Foster. We talked, hey, we're starting a wrestling program. How would you do this? I wasn't quite sure if it was an interview or just a conversation. And then he's like, hey, let's do a Zoom call the next day. And I've got some other people I'd like you to talk to. And then I got this Zoom invite that it was, interview head coach, and there's about 8 people on with a lot of letters after their names on the invite. And I was like, okay, this is for real. And so we had an awesome conversation, and then they invited me up for a on-campus interview. And, I think it went well because I was able to be honest. I wasn't sure if I wanted the job yet because I have a good job and I was happy. And okay, sure. Let's talk about, how starting a college program would work. And as soon as I left campus that day, it was a 5-hour interview. And I'll be honest, I haven't been in a suit for 5 hours straight since maybe my wedding. So called my wife right away. I was like, babe, we got to do this. And she's like, wait, what are you talking about? I thought you were going to talk to him. And I'm like, this is awesome. So ended up having our meet the coach night, got to meet the community, and it's just went, full speed from there. So, we've moved our gym last weekend. We're in a storage unit right now. We got a building there in town, 2 blocks from campus, which is going to be our RTC, our headquarters for everything outside of, NOC wrestling. We're going to have our youth club going there. We'll be able to do freestyle Greco. We've already got couple kids that have talked to me about maybe going Greco year round. And it's been crazy busy. We closed on our house in Texas last week. So it was really cool. Our checking account looked awesome for like 6 days. I got a screenshot of that. It's probably never going to look like that again. And we just closed on our house in Ponca City, Oklahoma yesterday. So
man, just like that, you're gone.
It's been a whirlwind. Yes. So kind of a couple of things. I mean, why the heck did I want to go to northern Oklahoma, middle of nowhere, start a team? To me, starting a sorry, the 12 signs on the wrestling room door that says "Do not enter" didn't work. But so kind of crazy thing was like when we saw everything, I went to the diner there in town. I mean, Tonka was a small town. It's about 5,000 people. The cost of attendance is amazing. I got to meet the people in the town, and really what cinched it for me was not that the university, the college didn't, but I was having breakfast with one of the Booster Club members, and he's like, "Hey, coach, all right." He's selling me on it. He's introducing me to people in the diner before I had interviewed. I'm like, man, hey, this is Coach Kenney. He's coming from Texas. He's going to be our new head coach. And I'm like, man, stop saying that. If I don't get this job, I'm going to look like an idiot.
Yeah.
But I met, little A, about 85 years old. And she's like, "Oh, coach, I'm so excited. We're going to have wrestling. You let me know, and I'll bring the grandkids to the meet, and, we'll get t-shirts. This is going to be awesome." And I just called my wife. I was like, okay, this little old lady, somebody's grandma sold this. Like, if this 85-year-old lady is excited about wrestling and has never met me before, this is the place to be.
And your wife bought in, obviously, because she's going with you.
Right. I'm pretty sure. I think she is. No.
So far, so good, right?
So far, right. I mean, but no, yeah, she's got a job up there now. She'll be teaching online, and just that will help kind of with my travel schedule and how all this is going to work as a college coach. And then obviously we'll have the gym and the apparel brand and her jewelry stuff. So we'll definitely be a little busy.
So when do you start? So what division is it?
So it's JUCO NJCAA.
Cool.
So it's 2 years, and kind of my big sell for kids is you come here 2 years. We're a small school. If you're wanting to be in the limelight, party in the frat house, this is not the place for you. No. This is, you come here for 2 years, put your head down. Our goal is we're not redshirting kids. I know some other JUCO programs do. My goal is to get you in there for 2 years. You take 15 credit hours a semester, and you leave with your associates. You still got your red shirt in hand. You become a JUCO All-American. You go somewhere else for red shirt that first year, get acclimated, go D1, D2, whatever your path is. Or, we've got the opposite side of that is, I've got one of our girls, she's going to go Air Force after 2 years of, NOC. We've got a program that you can be a windmill technician. Now, my big self is
technician. Interesting.
Scared of heights, and I'm not climbing up a windmill, but after 2 years, you do that. You're making 6 figures traveling around the country fixing windmills, turbines, I think is
I
the,
gotta tell you, where was I? I was somewhere where we were driving. Maybe it was when we went from Fargo to Minnesota, and there was out on the right side there was hundreds of windmills.
oh yeah. My wife's family has a couple on their land in Illinois, and yeah, it's that technology is not going away. And then we have a nursing program too, which is big, where it's an accelerated nursing program where they can get their RN in 3 years. So there's definitely some cool options for honestly half the cost of other, if not more than some other colleges in the area.
And what I like about the junior colleges too, Kenny, and you could attest to this because you're taking one over. I just spoke to another gentleman, Coach Gordy, who's taking over a new program as well out in Georgia. So it's nice, just like you in the Midwest there, adding another opportunity for these kids that maybe they think they can't wrestle at the next level. Maybe they're not ready mechanically. Maybe they're not ready for the education level at a big college. And you guys are really a different breed because it's not really a business at that level, right? It's more of like, my job is to make these kids good humans and teach them how to study and teach them how to get in the room and develop them as wrestlers, develop their study habits and get their grades up so we can see them go off to a college or university. I mean, I got to imagine same thing you're going to be
Yeah.
doing in Oklahoma.
And I mean, and look at, Texas and Florida is very similar. And there's a lot of talent in those two states with a ton of wrestlers with not many opportunities to wrestle at the next level. And then even Oklahoma, there's the depth of Oklahoma wrestling right now, is pretty awesome. And okay, you're a two-time state placer in Oklahoma. That means you're pretty tough, but you're not going to OSU or OU with being a two-time state placer.
Well, I mean,
and
this is bigger news, everybody. I mean, we've heard about another coach getting hired in Oklahoma, but this is bigger than that. We got Bryan Kenney getting NOC. So forget the other guy you heard about. We've got Northern Oklahoma right here.
we're pretty much the same. I think I have I got a better haircut than he does, and a better beard. He's won a couple more matches. Just 2 or 3, but that's all right.
Have you heard anything about what's going on in Oklahoma?
A little bit, yeah. A couple phone calls I've been on, a couple Zoom meetings. And that was one thing when we started the program. Coach Smith and Coach Kish, at OSU and OU have been big supporters of more JUCO opportunities. And I hate to quote Deion Sanders there, but the way D1 college athletics is right now, okay, they have 9.9 scholarships. I know NIL makes a whole different world, right?
Right.
But at the end of the day, okay, you could be a two-time state champion and you're 18 years old, or they can recruit from the portal and bring in a grown man who's 22 that's been an All-American somewhere. It's not a hard decision. You're seeing the portal really changing the recruiting aspects. I'm talking to kids all the time. They're like, "Oh, coach, I'll wrestle in college if I can go D1." I'm like, "You can't. If you're saying that, it's not there. You're a senior. That doesn't mean in 2 years you're not D1. Go be a junior college All-American. Go be a national champion. Okay, now you're D1.
Or go develop, right?
Yeah.
At a junior college like yourself or any other place, right? But go figure out how to go. And look, I tell people all the time, I know my son went Division III, and that's because that's the level of wrestler, right? And
Sure.
That's where he goes. And he's awesome. We're blessed that we even got to that level, right? And
he's in an awesome program, an awesome room with great coaching.
I tell kids all the time, like I've talked to kids before, and now that I've been through the college process and I went out and did all that stuff, I was able to come back and talk to kids because I've learned what coaches ask. I've learned what they're looking for. I learned what they see, right? And then, well, I can't go D1, so why blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, but do you know that, first of all, like this many people are going there? Like there,
Right.
and yeah, when you say D1, yeah, okay, maybe you can't go to Ohio State, Iowa, Penn State, Oklahoma State, whatever, right? Those like conglomerates, right? Those 10 schools or 15 schools or 20s that are just
Right.
incredible power.
First
But
in the country every
but
year.
do
Yeah.
you know how many other Division I schools there are that have like 1,000 people in the school?
Right.
And you could go there. But forget that. You know how many great D2 schools and D3 schools and NAIA schools? I mean, look what these guys do, like Omi at Lakeview and Grandview and Lindsey Wilson and all the other places that are out there. And then you've got these
There's the reason
codes.
why a lot of schools won't wrestle life in Grandview. Let's be honest. That, you know, and really to me, and that's a question I always get, Coach, are you trying to go D1 from knock? Are you using this to move up? And I'm like, why? What is, to me, level means nothing. Sure. If, you know, Oklahoma State or Iowa call, I think every coach in the country is going to answer that phone call. But at the same time, like, to me, I mean, and I went through the same process, right? I mean, I was a D3 kid coming out of high school, and I decided I wanted to go to a bigger school to focus on finance and wrestle club. And it was awesome, right? Whatever makes sense for your situation. But like for me, my family couldn't afford to send me D3. The money wasn't there. Okay, well, and today, and speaking from someone with student loans, you know, you got to look at the out the door number, not the tuition number, because you still got to eat, you still got to live in the dorms, you still got to get books. What is it going to cost you to go to this school? What's it going to cost you to fly home? You know, I mean, it's why I've talked to kids in Texas. Well, I want to go to, you know, school in Washington. Okay, cool. If you checked out, I mean, that's awesome. If that's the right school for you, have you checked out what the flights from Dallas to Washington are lately? Do you ever want to come home for, you know, for Thanksgiving or Christmas or summer? Oh, well, yeah, I want to come home for, okay, now you're looking at 4 round trip tickets. Your tuition just went up $3,000, you know, so
And I think people need to
that's
look
all
at
the
that.
stuff we
They need to look
at.
at all that, right? Like even when they come to your JUCO and you have scholarships, I'm sure, and you have things that you can offer. I think kids don't look at everything. They say, oh, well, I'm not getting any wrestling money, so they don't have any money to give me. When a lot of these schools, even the Division I schools, like, I mean, I've talked to kids that are at Division I schools, that Division I athletes, and maybe $7,000 of their scholarship came from the wrestling room, right? And they're Fargo All-Americans, Fargo champions, 3-time state champion. They're people that deserve money. But
Right.
the other 92% of the money they got came from, they have decent grades. They were able to get certain things from the school academically. And with all that together, they were able to form a package that made sense to your parents to get you there, right? So I think people miss that when they say, well, I can't go to, you know, a Division X or a Juke or whatever, because they don't have wrestling scholarships. Okay, but
Right.
they've got $40,000 a year they can give you in other stuff if you have good grades. All you got to do is get good grades, and all these schools will give you money. And if you don't have good grades, that's when we talk to Bryan Kenney at Northern Oklahoma College, and we say, hey, I want to wrestle, I want to develop, but I also need to learn how to study. Can you help me, right?
Yeah. And you know, on the opposite side, I mean, like for us, and I know a lot of other schools in our division are the same. We have wrestling money. We have academic money. You know, we have community-based scholarships, right? That this booster is offering this, so we have to write this letter. And then the big thing is what a lot of people, and I know I have to go off on a tangent, but with FAFSA right now, you know, that people don't have their FAFSA numbers yet, and it's almost June. That's a different conversation. But, you know, are you going to get government money? You know, do you get free or reduced lunch? And then in Oklahoma, there's something called Oklahoma Promise, which is awesome, that they get full in-state tuition to any state school if they meet these certain criteria. So maybe they're not Pell Grant money, but they're, you know, under, say, 60,000. I don't know exactly number, but Pell Grant's 45,000. Oklahoma Promise is 60. then they're getting their tuition paid for. Now you're looking at room and board. Well, okay, if somebody can then pay your books, well, you're getting a college education and food and living for $6,000 a year. Like,
And now I don't know what I don't know what the program in Texas is because I've never lived there, but you know how in Florida we have the program where kids can have money for college. I'm sure they have something like that in Texas and Oklahoma. Being that
yeah.
you're on the border there or close there, um, well, will they allow that from from Texas as well? Like some schools in the Southeast will take Florida, Georgia, whatever the public funds are.
So in Texas is a little different. It's almost more of like a 401k, but I know the program you're talking about in Florida. I don't know. I've talked to a couple of Florida kids. We don't have anybody on the roster yet. So we could definitely figure that out as it comes along. But,
Sure. And I think you'll get that question, right? Because if I live in Texas, let's say I live in Texas and you're in Oklahoma, but my parents did whatever the Texas College Fund version of
Right.
what we do in Florida is, and they ask you, well, I want to come to you, Bryan, but I have this thing. How do I use it, right?
The one in Texas I know does, because it's like a 529. It's almost like an IRA savings account, because that's what I
Right,
have
and
for my
that you
daughter.
can use for anything, correct?
Yeah,
Well, anything education wise.
Right. So, yeah, I mean, and, there's in-state tuition vouchers. I mean, there's all kinds of stuff. The big thing I could say is, I mean, ask the coaches. Like, hey, and I'm learning as high school coaches, and maybe I didn't do this well enough either, is coaching your kids how to talk to college coaches. I've got a lot of funny stories from this year of of what to do right, what to do wrong, and how do you talk to a college coach? How do you have that difficult conversation asking for money? If you're
Or
a
even
JV2 high
on
school wrestler,
how to reach out to coaches, because one thing that I learned, and I had to do this, I mean, nobody really, my son started wrestling late, so nobody was calling us saying, hey, we want your child to come wrestle for us. I had to reach out and send stuff and send information and send video and ask if we can come on a visit. And then when we come on a visit, I have to say, hey, I know there's not a lot of stuff back here, but can you just wrestle with them? Maybe. And the head coaches could not, for whatever reason, not on of the rules there, but they had other kids in the room that could wrestle with him, where they had a camp going on that weekend. So he can go into the camp that day and then they can wrestle with him. So that's how we got him to college, right? I mean, obviously his hard work and a little bit of accomplishment, but we had to reach out. We made a spreadsheet. We checked off all the stuff he liked, didn't like. We made him grade everything as we went on this journey through looking at colleges. So yeah, a lot of the kids and parents out there, if you think that you're gonna, unless you're, these guys, these high school kids that we see competing at the US Open senior level and the Olympic level, you're not going to come home and 4 cars aren't going to be in your driveway and it's Penn State, Iowa, Oklahoma State, like
right.
Ohio State. That's not going to happen to you. So you need to pick up the phone and call. And a lot of times we have some great kids. You may see this more than I do because I've only been in wrestling for like 10 minutes, but you'll see kids that show up at like a Super 32 or an NHSCA or a Fargo, and they end up either winning it or All-American, and they make this huge run. You're like, where the hell did that kid come from? And they're like, well, he's a kid that lives in XYZ. And what they do is they can only afford one big trip for wrestling a year. And they know that the only way to get to college is you got to get seen there. So we don't know that there's this hammer in the middle of nowhere, Mississippi, but all of a sudden he shows up and he's on the map, right? So you got to reach out.
And Fargo's not a cheap trip. Not all kids can afford to go to Fargo.
So reach out to these coaches, right?
Right. I've got a couple emails from kids. Hey, coach, and being honest. Hey, coach, I started wrestling as a junior. I fell in love with it. I'll run through a wall for you. I have a 3.2 GPA. I got a 28 on my ACT. Yes. Like, okay, come on. And that kid may never be a national champion, but a kid like that's willing to step out and It'd be honest and, hey, I want to learn and get better. I mean, coaches are going to say yes to that. You know, that, and I tell the kids, I mean, my first recruiting text, I tell everybody, I'm looking for kids that are going to work their butt off. We're going to work hard. And I'm looking for kids that act right, because I've got a 4-year-old son and a 10-year-old daughter that you guys are the professional athletes to them, you know, whatever. And I want to make sure the right type of people are around my own kids. And I told that to NOC when I got the job, like, hey, we may never win the JUCO national title. I hope we do, and we're going to train to, but we're not going to be last chance U of wrestling. Like, that's not the type of coach I've ever been. That's not where my focus is going to be. Like, we're going to graduate good people into the world that will hopefully be good wrestlers.
Yeah. And listen, that's what I was talking to the other guy. Like, if you just want an associate's degree and that's what you need to lift you into life, because a lot of businesses and companies, that's the minimum requirement. And that's because you looked at a career and you're like, man, that's my dream. I want to be this. And that's okay. People dream to be garbage men, and people dream to be firemen, and people dream to be coaches and teachers, and people dream to be billionaires, right? And
we got 2 guys on the team that exactly what you're saying, they want to be firemen. And if you have an associate, you enter in at a different level, and it, you know, you get in quicker to the fire academy.
so go get your associates and you get to wrestle, right?
I'd rather wrestle. Yeah, I'm like, sold. There we go.
So let's do it, right? So yeah, that's awesome. And then you also get the kids, and we talk to kids all the time, myself, and I know a lot of coaches do, and we'll say, hey, there is a Northern Oklahoma out there for you. There is a Nyack, there is a Andrews, there is a place for you to springboard you into where you want to be. Maybe you were being recruited by a 4-year college, but unfortunately, academically, you weren't ready for that 4-year college. So you find a guy like Bryan Kenney and you say, okay, here's my goal. I want to get to wherever, right? I want to wrestle at Blackburn College. And you say, okay, let's see what we got to do to get you there. And you start making a plan for them, and we get them through JUCO. And that's what happened when I would talk to, oh man, I forget his name. There's a big JUCO up in like Washington or something that's well known, or something out in the West Coast there.
I can miss out.
Yeah. And I would talk to him, and I remember talking to him, and he was like, the only thing I want to do is get these kids to college. Like that's my job here. It's different if I'm a 4-year college or at a university, then yeah, my goal is to graduate them, and my goal is to do things, but also my job depends on wins and losses too. So it's a different kind of feel where.
Right. But it's almost like we're recruiting in and then we're recruiting out. Right. And that's kind of what I tell everybody. Like, I want one wall at NOC to be what we did at NOC. So you're an All-American, you're a national champ. And then I want the other wall in the wrestling room to be what we did afterwards. So here's your D2 All-Americans, here's your D1 All-Americans. And I was like, so that we see that this is, you know, I don't want to say an end result, but okay, like you're saying, some kids are wanting to get the associates. Some kids need, I mean, we've got a couple of kids on the team that are D1 talent. You know, one hurt his shoulder his senior year. So, I mean, he was a 3-time state qualifier in Oklahoma.
That's a great idea. Maybe you put college, 4-year college banners on there. Maybe you get, a kid gets out of your program and ends up, whatever, at an Aurora, North Central, Blackburn, Iowa, and Oklahoma, whatever it might be, right? And you put
Daniel Cormier did pretty decent in going through the JUCO route.
Yeah, he's not bad. And John Jones too, right?
Right. Yeah, they did okay, right? And then and we got a guy on the team like that he's like, Coach, he got hurt in another college. He's transferred in. He's like, I want my national title. I want that to be checked off my to-do list. And then I'm going in the cage. And I'm like, sweet.
A lot of kids. I watched a young man, Sal Silva. He was out in Arizona at a JUCO, won a JUCO national title. Then he ended up at Southeastern University. And the 2 years at Southeastern University, he was a national champ one year, and he was a national runner-up the second year. Not a bad run for the kid, right?
Right, right.
Yeah. And you
I'll
see,
bet he don't have a whole lot of student loans.
yeah, yeah, he's
I mean,
a
that's
great
the
kid.
other thing, right? We've had some kids come out of Texas, and y'all just noticed who Wisconsin picked up. I mean,
Yeah,
he's a Texas kid
the kid for the D3 national champion, right?
from Wartburg. Yeah, he was on our junior duels team 4 years ago. He went, and he wasn't even a state champ in Texas. I mean, he was a freestyle state champ, I believe, either freestyle or Greco, but he wasn't high school. And he went junior college, then he went D3. Now he's D1. I mean, which is amazing.
Well, some guy named Jody Strittmatter, he's not that good, but he started at Pitt Johnstown, right, in a D2 program. And then the Pitt Johnstown coach told me when I got to speak to him, he's like, I just pulled him into my office, was like, you're too good for this. You need to go try, you need to go try the next level. But yeah,
That's a good conversation to have,
and Jody's doing pretty good for himself.
right? So
So yeah, it's
yeah.
awesome. Well,
I just think
man,
this is an exciting opportunity, and that was kind of what I told my wife. I'm like, the idea of starting a college program from scratch doesn't happen every day. And I mean, how many college programs are at every year? 3-ish. So the idea of like creating that culture from scratch, to me is, and I know some people are like, I would never want to start a college program. I'm like, well, to me, that was one of the most exciting things about it. It's like, well, I'm not inheriting anybody's stuff or drama or issues or whatever you want to call it. Like
starting off fresh.
all these guys and girls we recruited, I mean, they're ours. And
Does
we do
that
have
mean
an
we're
idea.
going to see you? Does that mean we're going to see you more now back in Florida? You're going to come to the Winter Knockout. You're going to come to the Braves Invitational. You're going to come
Let's
to
go.
all the tournaments.
Let's get some college matches tied to those events. And then it's a work trip.
I don't know
I'm
if
in.
you heard, but Coach Bono kind of let it out of the bag when he was being put into the Florida Hall of Fame, where he said that this year we're bringing our college team for a duel during the Christmas knockout. So there will be college teams now competing at the Christmas knockout.
Heck yeah. Well, let me know. NLC will come. Let's make it happen.
Well, you see the Christmas knockout has grown, and it's been awesome to watch it grow. At least in the 10 minutes I've been in wrestling, right? I've gotten to see the growth of it from my time, the transition over to Silver Spurs and everything that goes on there. But you'll see the JUCOs in there. You'll see the NAIs in there. You'll see the Division Ones in there, Division Twos in there, Division Three. The coaches are starting to come out and recruit it because, I mean, people laugh at me because when Caleb Henson won the national title this year from Georgia, everyone was like, "Oh my God, that's the Fargo." I go, more importantly, he's a 4-time Christmas knockout champion.
That tournament was hard when I was in Texas or Florida 8 years ago. Now
Yep.
that thing is a whole different, that's a whole different world.
Yeah, so it's growing. So man, I hope to see you out and about, man. It's great to see you and talk to you. It's been a while. So guys, the first 2 minutes of the show, he looked like a robot, but the rest of the show, the internet must have kicked in and somebody in the main office said, "Oh, Kenny's on a podcast. We better fix the internet." So the rest of it's been good and clean. No issues. And
Well, I appreciate you having me on, man. And we'd love to have some Florida Hammers up in Oklahoma, and we'll definitely be, it's cool. So after 7 years, our coaching staff at Tampa plant is still on the same group text message.
oh, very
So, Jeremy Carter, who's at Berkeley now, and Yost is in. Yost has got a nonprofit saving the world, helping homeless people get on their feet. We've got JT is out in Clearwater at the new purple and gray school, and I just went blank which school it is, and and then Chuck's at Bloomingdale. So yeah, it's still picking all these guys' brains, and I'm still tied into the.
I like Jeremy Carter a lot.
I
Some people will say he got a bad deal there, but who knows? I don't know the whole backstory.
I'll put it out there. He did. Anybody wants to talk to me about it, I'm happy to put my 2 cents in, but that's not this call. But
he's a
yeah,
good
no,
young,
dude,
he's a good
they're
young
awesome
coach.
dudes.
He's a good young coach. He's a good human, and he's a good person. And we all have our thing, but he loves the kids. He cares about them, and I'm glad he got another opportunity, and hope he proves to everybody that he's deserving of it.
Heck yeah. Heck yeah.
All right, man. Well, I'm gonna go eat some lunch, and then I got a show at 1:30. So
Sounds good. Well, I appreciate the time, man. It was great catching up with you guys.
yeah, and if you need any gear, any shirts, or any hats, or anything you need for your team, hit him up. He'd be happy to give you pricing and see if it works. If you like his pricing, buy from him. If you don't buy from him. It's pretty simple. He would say the same thing.
Exactly. Appreciate you guys. Thank y'all.
All right, brother.